Knightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many. This is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. Welcome to the evening. Oh, crap. Welcome to the Knightly Muse. This is going to be difficult for me. So Charlotte has a venue called the Evening Muse. This is not an ad or a sponsorship or whatever. If they want to be a sponsor one day, that'll be cool. But it's a place where there's live music and all of these really cool things. And I didn't get the idea from them, but the flow of that phrasing, the Evening Muse, right? It's cool. And so for me, the Knightly Muse, I'm going to have to explain where all that comes from, and that'll come later. But forgive my my honest mistake. And if you're ever free to support a friend or see somebody perform, the Evening Muse is a great place. It's in Noda, the art district of our wonderful little town, and it's really cool. But I'm here. Honestly, I'm here because Timmy told me that I needed to post every day. And I am stepping out of my comfort zone and making that happen. But I actually have things to talk to you about, which is good because this is only episode 2. But honestly, I mean, this is really hard for me. I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I'm not used to just talking for nobody, but also an immeasurable amount of people. Who knows who's going to listen to this? And that's kind of exciting and terrifying at the same time. And if you're my friend, though I usually try to deny it, I'm a talker. I like to talk. I also like to listen, but I can get going. And so I'm sure a lot of my friends, if they listen to this, when they listen to this, they'll be like, whatever, Kennedy, uncomfortable talking for a long time. I had a 5-hour conversation with Teve once, and that was hilarious. And I've had very long phone calls with lots of people. It's a love language of mine. But anyway, what I wanted to discuss tonight really, because this is, a nightly episode, a nightly pod, an evening pod, you know what I'm saying? But it's a nightly pod because it's branding. Anyway, the one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life was tonight. I went to see Kings Kaleidoscope with my friend Sam Carlton, high school buddy, go Knights, and his girlfriend joined us. Reagan, you're great. And I ran into like a lot of people I wasn't expecting to see. But my goodness, Kings Kaleidoscope, man, I heard them for the first time when I was in middle school in 2011. They came out with Come Thou Fount. They rearranged. They didn't write that song originally. It's a hymn, but in the early days of Kings Kaleidoscope, they rearranged hymns. And I'm not the biggest hymn person. Sorry if that's your thing. No disrespect, but it's not for me most of the time. And there's some hymns I love, like How Marvelous and Amazing Grace is always a good one. And yeah, but they're just, they're old. That's kind of the point. And they use language that I don't use every day. It's very Shakespearean and not relevant to me most of the time. And maybe that's just because I need to read more, who knows. But anyway, lots of thous and thuses and ests, you know what I'm saying? Like havest and wanteth and all that stuff. Like I've never called myself a wretch, but I do it every time I sing Amazing Grace. Anyway, great song. They rearranged Come Thou Fount, and I don't know, that it blew me away. It was my first time listening to them. I don't remember how I stumbled upon their band. But and this was, I guess, pre-Spotify's like emergence or whatever. And so I was really just back when it was like a easy throwaway birthday present to buy somebody an iTunes gift card to get me more music, right? I found them and it just blew me away. And I was hooked. And so I listened to their, they had a bunch of EPs and Felix Culpa and all these different albums that they came out with where they'd, just come out with these different renditions of hymns. And then they came out with their first record. And again, just blew me away. Their music was so unique, so fresh. And for a kid that grew up in the church, it was no disrespect, but I was so used to like cookie cutter songs. I mean, I grew up on that. One of my favorite memories with my mother was when we would go to school. My school was an inner city school for a Christian school for inner city kids, and my dad actually started it. And so my mom, we would drive together on the highway through traffic, and my hand would be in hers, and we would sing. At the time, we would sing the Newsboys. If you know who the Newsboys are, you know that a common question that I've been asked after I've interacted with people that have been alive longer than I am, a little more seasoned than I am in age. They'd be like, all right, well, which Newsboys, which iteration of the Newsboys are you talking about? And I, of course, knew some of the OGs, Pete Furler and all of that, but we would listen to this song. It was, my goodness, Million Pieces. Oh, they all fall like a million pieces, falling from the blue sky, kissing your kiss goodbye. And yeah, we would sing that together every time it came on, and all these, Toby Mac and all these artists. And over time, the radio serves its purpose, and you just kind of get used to it, right? What is the phrase? Familiarity breeds contempt. You can take things that you get every day for granted. And with Kings Kaleidoscope, it was fresh. I mean, they're coming out with a hymn. Everybody sings all the time. Things that me personally, I find boring, and they're just putting this liveliness and uniqueness with melodies and different arrangements and all of these things and instruments that I've never heard used in like Christian music really, and just totally blew the doors wide open for me in terms of what I was interested in. And over time, as they came out with a song that kind of set the world ablaze with division kind of within the Christian subculture of Kings Kaleidoscope fans and church goers that have been doing it forever, and people who are kind of, non-mainstream and not adversarial, but I think some people call them like the kind of punk rockish Christians that are edgy and all of this stuff. And so, Chad Gardner, the artist, that the band, they come out with a song called The Prayer where they say a curse word that I'm not going to say because my mama might listen to this and I ain't trying to get in trouble. But I remember the first time that I listened to it, my roommate, my guy, Noah, you know who you are. He showed me that thing and it frustrated me. I'm like, how could you curse in a song that's primarily being pushed out to Christians? Oh my gosh. And, over time, I learned to, sorry, I'm still learning to get used to this whole talking by myself thing, but I learned to really appreciate that song for its honesty. And there's this interview with Chad Gardner. I think it's at Biola University. Unfortunately, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure that that's what it was, but he talks about the song A Prayer and his story, and it's his story. I'm not going to retell it. You can find it. Just look up Biola University, Chad Gardner, Kings Kaleidoscope, and A Prayer. I'm sure you'll find it. And it's beautiful. But he goes through, he suffers. He goes through some really hard things. And I remember it just clicked for me. Like, if you're going through something that hard and that's what's in your heart, like, wouldn't you, isn't God big enough to handle you at your worst, you at your most unpolished, because life isn't polished. And this is Kennedy who'd been through things. My story, I haven't gone completely into it. And I'm sure as we continue together, I will more, obviously. I'm doing this every day, so here we go. But as I started to go through more things, I started to get used to not necessarily cursing in my prayers, though I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Sorry, guys. I just appreciated their honesty, one, in their music, but I could tell as I listened to their music, like, the honesty that they're conveying in these songs, it's spurring from an honesty that they have with Jesus, an honesty that they have with the Father in their prayer life, in their walk with each other and with Christ. And so I grew, and as I have gone through my own hardships in life, as I've been in counseling, and my counselor says that I tend to struggle and kind of devolve. I crumble, I deconstruct, I kind of become a worse version of myself when I feel helpless, and it's easier for me to tell everybody else but God about that when I go through pain. It's, my goodness, how deep are we going? This is so awkward. As a kid who struggled with pornography since he was 8 years old, who has struggled with pornography since he was 8 years old, what do I turn to when life comes at me and from all fronts, and I feel like I can't take a step? Where do I go? A lot of my life, that's the first place I turn to. What do I do when God feels far away? Do I reach out and say, God, I don't feel close to you? No, I just tell everybody else about how far away I feel from the Lord. And so to be at a place where you feel the freedom to say those things in a song that you're writing, knowing who it's probably going to reach, but then also knowing that within that group of people that may not like it or may feel shaken up by it is a person who's willing to wrestle with, man, like, God, I don't think I've ever been that honest with you. And unfortunately, I want to be able to tell every story and be vulnerable with you as much as possible, but I'm not at a place where I can share every story that I want to share. But I will say this. November was one of the hardest years of my life. Last year, 2021, there was a lot of conflict, familial, and struggle. Just life didn't feel right, and it felt like my world was crumbling. People that I cared about just struggling in life, feeling like God, like you're the Redeemer, and everything around me feels broken, and I don't know what to do, and my heart is breaking, and I can't move, I can't breathe, I can't feel, because every time I feel it just hurts. And for the first time, I remember I was sitting on the couch in my house, and it was like 2 a.m, which it's pretty close to that right now. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go pray about this. Turned off the lights. I got on my knees and I prayed. And as I opened my mouth and I just said, God, here's where I'm at. Life sucks and it hurts and I don't know what to do. And I just wept. And I'd never really done that before. And I wept and I tried to pray and I'd weep and I'd cry and words would come out and then they wouldn't. And I'm not the type of person who will say, God told me this today, or God, I don't really know. I'm still learning what God's voice sounds like and what that means and exactly how that feels, because that's just not my story with how God's moved in my life. I feel like most of the time I look back and I see God's handiwork and how he just orchestrated my life. But in that moment, when I prayed, it felt like God was right there, closer than he'd ever been to me. And it was the first time that I was that honest with him. And he felt like he was right there. And it was one of the greatest feelings and one of the hardest moments of my life. And that is what I admire so much about Kings Kaleidoscope and their music. It is so unique and eclectic and just chaotic and amazing at the same time, yet you feel it's so raw and you feel like it's an experience. I mean, my goodness, they performed a set that they haven't even released yet. Like it was incredible. And you've got 2 guys playing the drums at the same time. One of the drummers is playing the guitar and the other one is going from bass to trumpet and playing the keys, and all these different instruments and different moments just coming together and people screaming at the top of their lungs. And some of it is highly theologically dense words and liturgically whatever. I mean, all these different phrases that we use and very hymnish and old language, and it's beautiful, but then at the same time it's just this new sound that is so captivating and incredible. And it was I'm at a loss for words, and it was incredible, man, woman, whoever you are. I was blown away. And to see a band that I have actually wrestled with, and in a way that I haven't wrestled with others. It's not a changing of sound. It is, I mean, their sound is always different and new and fresh, but literally changing how I believed like things should be, how I believed my relationship with God should be. And I got to tell them that. I got to ask them questions and see like how do they cultivate a relationship with God that's that honest? Because I can be honest with you right now. I prayed that prayer and I was like, man, I've never felt closer to God than when I did that. And I'd be lying to you if I said that I pray like that all the time. Unfortunately, most of my prayers since then have looked more like the, hey, God, how's it going? Here's what I need, and hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you later. That's how most of my prayers have looked. But what is it about me that feels that? And it's, you go through pain and you realize like when you're going through it, you don't talk about all the stuff that you just say to check off a box. You say what's really going on because you need help and you actually believe that he's the person who can solve the issue. And I just, it's a moment that you'll never forget with people that you love. And that was my Kings Kaleidoscope experience. John Mark McMillan is my favorite artist. And man, when I tell you that band was just insane. And man, I'm a little stuck right now because I don't know who, everybody wants to rank it. And it's hard because, man, again, I got to see a band that I didn't grow with, but they went through all of these changes as I did as well. And man, they rocked the house. They brought the house down. And Charlotte, man, I'm telling you, Charlotte fans, Charlotte audiences are different, man. We go in, and it was a fun experience. And if my voice sounds a little groggy, it's because I was screaming at the top of my lungs. So I'm trying to figure out a lot of things right now as we journey through this podcast together. Like what I'm going to call you guys, like my fellow musers, my fellow Knightly Musers. I don't know. That kind of has a ring to it. But yeah, I just felt like I wanted to talk to you about a concert that was life-changing in the sense that, man, I just got to see beautiful art performed and created. And yeah, I'll never be in the room with those people again in that way. And talk about another band, man. Gable and Gable Finch and Friends or something like that. I got to find the name of these people. I've never heard of them before. And talk about a group that just... Gable, Price, and Friends. There we go. Man, they were the openers, and they rocked it too. Never heard of them before. And they earned a download on Apple Music because that's what I have. And, man, just an all-around good performance. Great performance. Incredible. And, man, it was sweet. And so I guess as my hope is just to share parts of my life with you guys. And I'm sure as I continue to do this and stay consistent, I'll develop exactly where I want this to go. But in the words of Timmy Douglas, who will be referenced a lot on this, I'm thinking of making a podcast like segment where I'm just like, here's today's thing I learned from, I got off the phone with Timmy today and this is what I learned. And so, yeah, what I learned from him was you can wait till something's right, wait till it's perfect to move and you'll probably never start, or you can start. And as you keep going and do it, you will figure out how you want it to be. And so, sorry guys, we're going to be stumbling towards the light. I think it's in a beast-like motion. That's the John Mark McMillan line, stumbling towards the light. So, stumble towards the light with me, Knightly Musers. But that's episode 2. I love you. Peace.